Hi, Youjin. I wanted to make sure you got this back. I know your exam is coming up, so let's see what you wrote. Okay, the pie chart gives information about 7 popular school subjects in Germany in a single year. Overall, it is clear that the addition of proportions of the most popular 4 subjects accounted for over 4/5, PE, history, maths, and physics. However, the combined figure of biology, geography, and IT was only 17.2, accounting for less than 1/5. Okay, I like this sentence. This sentence was a little awkward. And also, this isn't really an overview because you start going into detail. When you start mentioning data like 4/5, 17.2%, it's no longer an overview. It's essentially, it's just data. Okay, it's a detailed paragraph. And so an examiner could look at this and potentially say to you that there's no overview. All right, because just because you wrote this, all right, it doesn't mean that that makes it an overview. What does an overview do? It's supposed to provide the biggest trend, the most obvious feature, the thing that you can understand from the first look at this chart. Okay, so that's why this isn't really an overview. What you could have said instead was that clearly 4 subjects were the most popular. PE and history, maths, and physics, or you could have said clearly the most popular subject was PE and IT was the least. That would have been more than enough. All right, let's move on. Looking at the graph more closely, one can see that the most popular subject was PE with the figure of 22.9, and this was followed by history, accounting for only 0.5 percentage point less. Fine. Meanwhile, the percentages of maths and physics were nearly 20%, with the figures of 19.5 and 18.1 respectively. By contrast, biology, geography, and IT were less popular subjects relatively, with each having the value of under 10%. IT had the lowest percentage. The proportions of biology, geography, and IT were 7.1, 6.4, 3.7 respectively. Okay, I haven't done a word count here. This feels really short. It may be 150 words. I'm going to try to check it out. Okay, so it is in fact 151 words, but it definitely felt, it's not that it felt short, that was the problem. It felt a little underanalyzed. So what do I mean? I mean that your language was very good, the grammar, the vocabulary. You can see I didn't really have to change around anything, but what you have kind of run the risk of is writing a mechanical description. So what did you really do here? You just went down the row, really, starting from the highest to the lowest. And the problem with that is that there's no actual comparison, there's no analysis. These types of pie charts, and these types of graphs in general, where there's very little information, you only really had 7 pieces of information, sometimes they're the hardest ones because you have to stretch out the data that you have in order to just provide some sort of meaningful comparison and analysis of it. So what would have been a good thing to do? Well, you could have looked at, for example, this thing here for IT, that it's only 3.7. If you think about it, it is 1/7 approximately of, or it's like, yeah, it's 7 times less than the highest percentage. Okay, so that's interesting. Or you could have talked about biology and how it had 1/3 the popularity of history. Okay, so it's important to make connections like this when you have such such limited data. Now here where was it? Here you appropriately mentioned that these 3 subjects were only 17.2%. Well, I think it would have been interesting to say that these three subjects combined did not reach the proportion of popularity of any of the other ones, like PE, history, maths, and physics. All right, so these are the kinds of connections you want to make. And it makes everything a lot more meaningful rather than just like, okay, well, this had 20%, this had 19%, this had 15%. So, yeah, everything was good, except I would like a little more analysis when you have such a simple chart. Now I want to move on to your task 2. Okay, the issue of working part-time when students are studying has grown in importance over the last few years. While some believe that the advantages of having part-time jobs are more than drawbacks, personally, I strongly disagree. That was good, because you have the contrast word here. Good. This essay will argue the advantages. Okay, so you think it has more disadvantages. Fine. This essay will argue that doing part-time jobs has negative effects on the study of students, using examples from the UK government to demonstrate points, prove arguments. Lovely, lovely. Let's move on. On the one hand, there are some advantages to working part-time. One of the advantages is that students could learn social skills and responsibilities through working. As a result, they could prepare for the time of working as an employee. No. This is a little awkward. It's a little wordy and awkward. So, as a result, they could prepare for their work life after graduating from school, or they could prepare for their career after graduating from school. For example, a recent empirical research, I don't like A here with research, it's uncountable, by the UK government demonstrated that the students who work on a part-time basis during their study could be employed more easily, you need a comparison word here, more, than those who do not experience part-time jobs. Therefore, it is evident that working after school has some advantages. All right, great. One thing I wanted here is you talked about social skills and responsibility, but you didn't tell me how it does this, and I did have that question. What you just told me is what this means, that it helps you get a job better or more easily. I would have liked to hear a little bit more about how this happens. I thought that was an area you could have developed. All right, and then you could have said that the result is you can get a job easily, okay? On the other hand, although there are some benefits to working part-time, there are also a number of drawbacks. Firstly, students tend not to concentrate on their study due to the lack of study time. It is true that those who have to work after school seem to sleep late and cannot do their homework hard. Hard is a weird word here. You don't do your homework hard, you study hard. Secondly, students could lose their health when they work part-time. This is due to the fact that a great amount of time and energy should be required, not should, but is required during work, and it leads to the lack of time needed for sleeping. That's a little strange. Let's see. And it takes away from the time, it takes away from time which could be spent sleeping, resulting in poor health. Maybe something like that, but it's a weird construction here. Thus, it is conclusively clear that the drawbacks of taking up part-time work are considerable. From the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that doing part-time jobs causes lack of concentration on study and an unhealthy lifestyle. Therefore, teenagers should consider the disadvantages when they decide to do part-time jobs. Okay, so I really liked the way you organized this essay. I thought it was very clear. I thought your position was clear throughout. So all those things were well done. You supported most of your arguments, even though I thought you could have done a little more in some areas that I already discussed with you. But it felt very cohesive. It felt developed. It generally the grammar was good. The vocabulary was good, generally, and the vocabulary. Let me try that again. The grammar and the vocabulary were generally good. There were some little flaws. But it was a good essay on the whole. Now, from what I remember in your email, you said your exam is tomorrow, which is why I wanted to get this back to you as soon as possible. I'm sure you're going to do a great job. Just remember all the things that we've been talking about in these video corrections. Remember everything you've been learning along in the course. Let us know how you do. Let us know your results, of course, as well. And if you need anything else, please don't hesitate to let us know. If we can be of service somehow in your IELTS journey. All right. Best of luck, and we look forward to hearing from you.